Okay, well, welcome everyone to another Seasoned Couples podcast. So we're really excited. We got one of our favorite couples here today, Kendrick and Shantania Leggins. And so we've known them from church, and we connected. And it's always hard to find another couple where the husbands connect as well as the wives. So they've been a part of our family for a while, and we're just really excited to have them here today to discuss some couple stuff with us. So all our couples have been married for at least 15 years, so they've done the work. So I'm going to turn it over to the Leggins and have them introduce themselves, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kendrick, and this is my lovely wife, Shantania. And it's truly a pleasure to be before you all on today. We're excited, right? We're excited. We kind of don't know what to expect, right? We're just going to go off the cuff, but we want to be very transparent, and hopefully something that we say can inspire and enlighten some other couples that are out there, even some single and seasoned couples. Would you agree with that?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So now we always start out with this question. How did you guys meet? Because there's always a story around the meeting. So share with us how you guys met as a couple.
Okay, awesome. I think I get to share that part of it. I don't know if Kendrick said, but this year we celebrated 21 years. So we like to say it's our golden anniversary because we celebrated 21 years on the 21st of October. But how we met, y'all, we high school sweethearts. We are high school sweethearts. We've been knowing each other since our freshman year of high school. We did not start dating then, but we definitely met initially in ninth grade. And he likes to say, my maiden name is Loving. His name is Leggins. And so we kind of sat next to each other in a few classes. And he said, I didn't talk to him. That's what he said. He said, I didn't talk to him. And, but now he can't get me to be quiet. I don't know about that. But at any rate, we initially met in ninth grade. We didn't start dating until our junior year of high school. And we've been together ever since. He played football. I was a cheerleader. And, it was a pretty storybookish, and we was king and queen of the sweetheart court our senior year. So we love looking back on all those memories. But that's how we met. We met in high school.
Well, I knew that you guys were high school sweethearts. But if I recall, the story was Kendrick saw you and fell in love at first sight.
You must have got that. You did get that version from Shantania, I'm sure.
So what's your side of the story? Because usually the wife has a side of the story and then the husband has a side of the story.
Absolutely. So Shantania is correct. We did meet in high school, 3019 Canal Street, third period English honors class in Ms. Veldon's class, right? Okay. And so we are 2 weeks in the net. We're 2 weeks into class, and Shantania has not said a mumbling word to me, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm on a football team. I have some older cousins at the school, so I'm not your typical freshman. That's the way I'm feeling, right? And so I asked Shantania, I said, so you're going to sit next to me the whole semester and not say anything? And so she's right. I haven't been able to get her to be quiet ever since then. So the reason we did not start dating until our junior year, while there was some chemistry there, I did have a girlfriend, right? I had a girlfriend, and Shantania played a wingman, if you will, for a friend of hers, and she started dating another guy on the football team. And so we were preoccupied until our junior year in high school. And then we did get married 5 years after we graduated high school. And here we are some 21 years later.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Hey, I'm going to provide some context to this question here. I met Nanette when I was an undergraduate and she was in graduate school. I got out of my 1 o'clock class. I was walking into the snack bar to get something to eat. And one of her friends called me over to the table and introduced me to Nanette. And I said hi. I didn't have any type of game. I didn't know what to say. And then as I was leaving the snack bar, and before I got to the door, I said to myself, that's going to be my wife right there. And I just
Wow.
knew it at that point. So, Kendra, when did you know that Shantania was going to be your wife?
When did I know Shantania was going to be my wife? Probably, probably the day I asked for her hand in marriage. Definitely, we there was some very strong chemistry between us, and one of the things I think we benefited very much from was we became very good friends. I mean, just straight friends, even before we started dating. And so then when we started dating, that friendship carried on throughout the relationship. And so if I were to answer that question, when did I know Shantania was going to be my wife? I would say, after we got past the puppy love phase, like after we graduated high school, Shantania was actually going to go to school away. And for whatever reason, she decided not to go to school away. So we both went to college in the inner city of New Orleans. And so we didn't have the parameters of high school any longer. And so that kind of took our relationship to the next level. And we knew right off the bat that we didn't really want to play around with each other's emotions and stuff like that. Because as I said, we were really good friends. And so we kind of knew a lot about each other going into the relationship. And so after we graduated high school, we kind of took our relationship to the next level. And I would say about 3 years after we graduated high school, I knew that I was going to marry Shantania.
Okay. So Shantania, what about for you? Because I know, to provide some context, I remember I was a bridesmaid in one of my friends' wedding, and we were asking her, so how do you know? How do you know he's the one? This was way before I met Terrence. And she said, I know my future husband is going to gain weight and be bald like his dad. And I'm just so looking forward to it. And I was like, girl, not the bald head. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. I can't explain it, but you just know. But how did you know, Shantania, that Kendrick was the one?
So when I think about how do I know he was the one, I don't know if I knew. I'm going to just be honest. No, seriously. Wow. I hear today, I hear women talking about, write down what you want in a guy and pray about it and, all that stuff. I can't honestly say I did that. I think we were so young I didn't know to do that. I will say this. There were some things I knew I did not want in a spouse, and he did not have those characteristics. Like you said, we did have very strong chemistry. We were really good friends. We really enjoyed being in each other's company. And it just felt right. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really have a science to it. It just felt like he's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the same for me. I can't really pinpoint one thing, but it just felt right. And a lot of times, because other times you had doubts, you had warning signs, you had, it didn't feel right. But when you completely feel comfortable with the person, you feel safe, you feel like you can trust them. It's, it's like my friend said, I don't know that I can't know exactly what it is, but you just know. So it's hard to define. Yeah. And the other thing, it doesn't take 9 years of dating to figure out that they're the one, right? Like we knew in 3 months of dating that he was the one. So what would you, is that your experience too? That it didn't take a long time?
It didn't take a long time, but again, we were so young. So we spent, years in high school getting to know each other. We got married. We was 22, 23 years old. So we hadn't really lived a whole lot of life. We didn't have a whole lot of experiences, but we knew each other from high school, right? Obviously you don't know everything, but you kind of know their personality, that kind of stuff. So it didn't take long. I think between the time we graduated high school up until the time we had gotten married, we had probably been in or attended, 15, 20 weddings up to that point. And so, obviously you start having that conversation. What you say?
I said, no pressure, Kendrick, right?
You start having those, conversations after going to so many weddings, right? And it just felt like it was the time. It was the time.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say this. We initially we got married October of 2021, and in all transparency, initially planned to get married in April of 2022. Well, prior to us getting married, I did get pregnant. And so we had KJ in February of 2021. And we just decided, hey, look.
You said 2021. What year was that?
I'm sorry, 2001. You're right, 2001. Yes, we had him in 2001.
There'll not be no babies coming around here in 2021.
Listen, no. And then we got married. We decided to push up the wedding date, and we got married in October of that year.
Now, something key you said was the friendship that you guys developed in high school. Talk about how important has that been important in your marriage? Talk about that.
That has absolutely been important in our marriage. Shantania just brought the elephant into the room, right? KJ was born in February. We got married in October. But also in our friendship, as Shantania mentioned, because our names were both started with L's and we were both in honors classes in high school, we typically sat together. We typically had, some of the same classes and whatnot. And through those same classes, Terrence, we were able to have conversations with each other, right? And getting to know each other, we found that we had similar backgrounds. I came from uptown New Orleans. Shantania was from downtown New Orleans, but our family dynamic was pretty similar. Shantania's dad was, alcoholic, drug addict. My dad, alcoholic, drug addict. And our moms were the glue that held the relationships together, right? And so in talking and conversating with the friendship, we found that out about each other. And so we already knew that when we go into relationships, when we go into marriage, we didn't want to bring that type of chemistry into our marriage, right? So Shantania mentioned, she didn't know what she wanted in a marriage, but she knew what she didn't want. Likewise, I knew what I didn't want, right? And I didn't want to bring my family through, some of the same turmoil that I experienced as a kid. And that kind of those challenges that we had faced kind of enhanced our friendship because we were more relatable, right? And so, so that's how the friendship kind of spawned, is because we shared our struggles with each other.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So 21 years of marriage. What would you say has helped make the relationship work in 21 years?
I think one of the main things that helped make our relationship work is we're willing to work. Like, I think a lot of things that's left out of the equation, a lot of times what's left out of the equation is, people minimize the work. We don't watch much TV, but one of the channels that we do watch on TV is ESPN. I love watching ESPN, but one of the challenges that I have with ESPN is they pretty much show the highlights, right? And when people look at marriage, oftentimes that's what they see, the highlights. They don't see the work that goes into marriage. And you got to understand, after 21 years, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. We came from pretty similar backgrounds. However, you brought two individuals from different households together, right? And so it takes a lot of work. And so we are willing to work. Anything that is worth having is worth working for and worth fighting for. And so we knew that going into marriage, we were going to work on making our marriage better. We were going to, fight to help keep our marriage enhanced, right? Early on, Shantania would bring me articles and magazines on marriage and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not reading that crap. I'm good. But now I look forward to reading different articles. As a matter of fact, I look up different, articles and websites and stuff like that on how to enhance the marriage. And so what has helped make our marriage work is work. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. And if I had to add something, one of the things I think we do a great job at is we play team. Like, we play team. And, you hear all the time that there's no I in team. And that's how we've operated since day one. Even with the kids, we make it clear that everybody have a role. And if somebody don't live up to their role, then the team not going to win. And so we do that heavily in our marriage. And it's about whatever needs to be done. And that's just kind of how we've operated over the years.
And let's talk a little bit, because people always say marriage is a lot of work. Marriage is a lot of work, which we definitely understand that, because we've been together 30 years, married 28 years. The work for us looked like working on our communication skills, right? So Terrence comes from a family, his parents have been together for 57 years. They're still together. He never saw them argue. I come from, marriage, a single parent household. The marriages I did see were a little bit dysfunctional. People argued, they physically fought, and all this kind of stuff. So to us, our work was figuring out how we communicate and how do we, like Kendrick said, these are two separate individuals from two different households and to bring them together. What did the work look like for you guys?
Kendrick mentioned that we come from similar backgrounds in which we did, but part of that work was the communication piece as well. My mom was the strong one. She's the one that made stuff happen, and that communication piece, because I watched her just go off, for lack of a better word, right? And in the beginning, like, that was kind of like my MO. I'm going to just say what needs to be said. And I'm going to say it how it needs to be said, which is probably how it didn't need to be said. And so that was an area that I had to work on. And Kendrick, his natural personality is, while he say, crack a lot of jokes and laugh a lot, he's kind of non-confrontational. He's calm, cool, and collected. And to me, if I'm yapping at you about something, I need you to say something. But that's not his personality. And so, we've definitely come a long way with that. When we first got married, coming from the same backgrounds and, seeing all of the fussing and arguing and stuff, we did not want our kids to observe that. So in the beginning, that was one of our, foundations. Like, hey, look, we're not going to be arguing and fussing and stuff in front of the kids. We just not gonna have that type of environment. I remember that as a kid, and I didn't want that for my kids. So we definitely we like to say heated conversations. We won't necessarily argue, but we will have some conversations that need to be had. And but we definitely, I've grown a lot in that area in terms of how I communicate to him, how I talk to him, and
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that if I were to add anything along those lines of communication, I think the key to any healthy relationship, whether it be business, whether it be a friendship, whether it be marriage, the key to a healthy relationship is communication. Communication. And all communication is not comfortable communication, but it's like medicine. It may not taste good, but it's meant to make you better. And so my challenge with communication was, if I don't address it, I hope it go away. And of course, we understand that it doesn't work like that, right? And so I had to become, well, if something was a bother, or if it was constructive conflict, then we need to address it, because if we don't address it, it'll just fester.
Yeah. And was there anything you wanted to add to that, Mr. Ray?
No, I completely agree with you guys. And one of the things that we had to deal with, communication was a huge issue for us. Because again, I never heard my parents argue. So when Annette came at me upset, I was like, "There's something wrong with this woman." and what happened is that I had to learn that not necessarily to listen to how she said it, but what she said. But I also had to be very reflective too, because you see things, you filter things through your feelings and your perspective. Mm-hmm. And I had to realize a lot of stuff I was dealing with, and I was unfairly putting that filter on her. And I had to be honest with myself about it. And so, my mom always told me, you have to love somebody enough to tell them the truth. But you have to tell yourself the truth as well. And so I had to be honest with myself. And so I can better translate what she was telling me.
Yeah, and then what I had to work on, because I was like you, Shantania, I just said it, right? And if you had a problem with it, you're gonna tell me. If you didn't, then if you didn't say anything, that means you didn't have a problem with it. But the problem is that's not his personality.
Correct.
So if he had a problem with it, just because he didn't say anything doesn't mean he didn't have a problem with it. And so he would hold a grudge, or he'd be upset, and I'd be like, well, what? I don't understand what the problem is. So I had to learn how to deliver information to him and be sensitive to his feelings, because respect is everything. And for a man, you gotta be respectful when you're talking to them and how you come across when you're talking to them. You can still be, set boundaries and make sure they understand what you need, but you got to show some respect as well. And I wasn't, we're not taught that growing up in terms of how to interact and say things in the appropriate way sometimes.
I agree.
So now, gender roles. How would you define the gender roles in your marriage? Is it more traditional? Is it a mixture? You guys come up with something that works for you guys?
I think I definitely wouldn't necessarily say traditional. Again, we do what needs to be done. I mean, the standard, women roles, if you will, cooking, cleaning, that stuff. I cook more just because I'm probably better at it, but he can cook. He does cook. He cleans up and fold clothes better than I do, okay? And so he does that. He combs hair. We have 3 daughters, and Kendrick has combed hair. He will still comb hair. Well, I mean, they're kind of older now, but if necessary, the little one, he'll, do what needs to be done. He's giving baths. When I think about the standard, male roles, the one that comes to mind is like taking out the trash. While he does it more than I do, it's not off limits. I'll take the trash. I'll pull the trash. I'll do what needs to be done. And so I think, probably a mixture. We just do what has to be done. If it's something that the other one just can't do or don't know how to do, then the other one will do it. But that's kind of how we've operated.
Yeah, and it's funny for us because our roles have shifted over time, right? So in the beginning, it was more traditional, right? I did all the cleaning. I handled everything that had to do with the kids. I made sure everything was done. He paid all the bills. And then as things started to happen, he got a little busier related to the businesses than I was. So paying of the bill transitioned to me. Now he does the laundry more than I do, and he does the folding more than I do. So I've noticed that it's kind of evolved, and since we're a team, it's okay. Well, I fit in better here now, so let me do this role.
And we sort of adopt the same philosophy that you guys have, where we are family. Nanette is my ride or die, and she's the best part of me. Okay, but we are a team, and so I need for her to be her best self. You know what I'm saying? And I need for the team to operate at the highest levels. So we're going to just do whatever it takes for the team to perform. So if I have to do something that's non-traditional, then so be it. It's no big deal. It's about the team.
Right.
Yeah, and Terry uses the basketball analogy about the point guard.
I use an analogy like, Shaquille O'Neal was a great basketball player, one of the best ever. But it wouldn't make any sense for Shaquille O'Neal to be a point guard. Because that's not his job. No, that's not what best means, even though he's great. Put him in his role so he can be, he can maximize his performance as well as the performance of the team. So what we do from that is, okay, you do these things so you can elevate and operate at your best self as a team. So for the best interest for everyone, and she's happier in that sort of role.
And vice versa too. So it's kind of shifted over the time. So we don't have any set traditional roles, but whatever works for the team at the time.
That's correct.
What advice would you have for single women or men that are looking to get married? Because they say it's rough out there.
It's rough out there on the streets.
I want to go first.
Yeah, my advice to single men and women, as we talked about earlier, understand that it will take work, right? And I think that oftentimes you will feel like you're the one that's giving more than the other. You're the one that's giving more than the other. Y'all may have to help us with this. What artist was it that says not 70-30, it's not 60-40, it's a 50-50 love? Well, even that is incorrect, right? I think that is, both people have to be willing to give 100%. You have to be willing to give 100%. And, you're always going to feel like you're giving more than the other person. And it just depends on which partner you're talking to. That feels like they're getting the short end of the stick, right? So understand that it will take work, but again, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. I wouldn't want to put it in the work with anybody else besides Shantania.
Yeah.
If I had to add to that, it's and speaking to women, when you get married, you need to be your best self. Like, don't expect the marriage to make you whole. A lot of times, like, he said, people say it's 50-50, but the truth of the matter, I believe the best marriages come from two people operating at 100% of who they are together. And that's what's going to make the best marriages, right? You have one of my favorite scriptures I like to talk about when I'm talking to like married couples at the top, that talks about, the man leaving his mom and his father to unite with his wife, right? And when I think about that, when I talk to married people today and I listen to the gripes and stuff from women, marriage is selflessness, not selfishness. And one of the huge challenges is the I get out of place. And when I look at that word united in that scripture, one of the versions of the Bible uses the word, the man is going to leave the mom and the dad to unite with his wife. And when you think about the word united, right, when that I gets out of place, a united marriage will become untied. And so today, it's all about I, me, my, what I feel, what I want. But when you get married, it goes from I to we, from me to ours, us. It's not about, you know what I'm saying? Not saying you need to just dismiss yourself and you no longer matter. I'm not saying that. But when two people are working together toward a common goal, you got to be focused on the success of the team, not of individual players. And so that's what I would share with, women looking to get married today. You need to, before you get married, do the work on yourself so that when God sends that person, when he sends that Boaz that everybody looking for, you can be ready to receive him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something, it's funny because you mentioned about one of the things we had talked about early on in our marriage, and Terrence realized when we were struggling, that first 10 years, we just call it the darkness because it was bad. But one of the reasons why it was bad is because I kept thinking if he would just change, then everything would be okay. And he kept thinking if she would just change, then everything would be okay. And there was something that Terrence had said to me that I think changed our marriage. He says, I got to realize that I've got to love you the way you want to be loved and not the way I want to love you. Because one of the things he would do is get up on Saturday mornings, and he was like his dad. He would go and wash the car, mow the lawn, just doing all of these things, showing that I'm a good husband and I'm loving you. And all I really wanted him to do was sit down and watch a Lifetime movie with me. And we spent some quality time together. So learning each other's love languages and loving that person the way they want to be loved as opposed to the way you think they want to be loved really, I think, changed our marriage. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, I agree. And I was loving her the way I saw my dad love my mother, and and loving her the way that she needed to be loved. And it took a long time because it's hard for you to think that maybe you're not doing something right. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have to be honest with yourself about stuff. And once I start being honest with it and realize that maybe I'm not the husband that she needs right now. So I had to change.
And vice versa for me, right? Watching football on Sunday all day. And he was a Houston Oilers fan. And let me just say this, Houston Oilers never won. So he would be like all day. The game would come on Sunday. He'd be upset for the rest of the day. But him allowing him to watch the game or watching the game with him is how he wanted to be loved, as opposed to complaining, why you watch football all the time, which is what I was doing initially. Then I kind of got into it and really started to like football, except the Houston Oilers lost a lot, so it would mess up our Sundays, but other than that. So now, what about the romance? You guys, 5 children, married for 21 years. How do you keep the spice going?
Don't look at me because I don't know.
So, it's funny because, we had this conversation quite often, right? If I had to pinpoint an area that we always working on, believe it or not, even though we have 5 kids, okay, it's in the area of romance, okay? Not because neither one is not attracted to the other, not because of any of that. It's just we be so busy. We have 5 kids, and y'all know the age span from 21 to 6. So literally, all our marriage, we've been having babies, raising kids. So we still have a 6-year-old, and our life is really, we made a decision in the beginning that we wanted to be available to our kids on our terms, and what that looked like to us was being able to bring them to school, pick them up, be at the events, be home when they got home, that kind of stuff. And so, that requires a lot from us. And so in the area of romance, sometimes, when it's time to, do that consistent date night, we looking at each other like, you feel like going? I don't feel like going either. And we did that. We did that a lot. Now, we've gotten better. We like to say we got 2 groups of kids. With the first group of kids, it was bad because we wouldn't. I mean, if the event wasn't church related or kids school related or family or something we just had to go to, we would dismiss it just because we don't feel like going. We've been running all week. We tired. Right. And now we do much better. Now we'll, carve out time. It's still probably not as often as it should be, but we recognize that that's important to our marriage. And, I tell people all the time, God's grace is sufficient because we knew better. We knew better. We taught premarital classes for 10 years. We knew better, but it's an area that we could get better in. And it's definitely something that we're working on.
Yeah. And then also, we utilize technology, right? So I get a notification on my phone about a date night on Friday, right? And so I just accepting, yes. And then we just go from there. So I know that I just need to show up, right? And so I'll ask, is there any type of dress code or anything like that? And so just show up. But we do a great job now, not a great job, we do a better job, I'll say, at scheduling time for date nights and stuff like that. And sometimes date night looks like, okay, look, we're gonna, watch a movie together, Netflix and chill type situation, right? But we make sure that we find time. Definitely looking to get better, but we make sure we find time for each other.
See, the key thing you said is about being intentional, right? And not expecting big things for a date night, right? Because for us, I may be need to go to the grocery store, and I'll be like, "You want to ride with me?" And he'll go, "Yeah, okay, I'll ride with you." I mean, so that 20 minutes of quality time, we can really kind of unwind and really get to know each other, or go, especially with COVID, go on walking together and things like that. So, I had to change my thinking because I originally thought he had to plan something and all of that, but now it's more of taking advantage of the small things.
Yeah. And I think that's probably been some of our saving grace, because we pretty much do everything together. Like, we still go make groceries together. We from New Orleans, so we make groceries. We don't go grocery shopping, okay? But we still do that together all the time. If we going shopping for the kid or whatever we do, it's not often you probably going to see one of us without the other. I mean, we do have things we do individually, but we're pretty much together. So, you kind of get that isolated time. It might not, be a date per se, but you're spending time. And I think that's probably been part of our saving grace over the years, because we still enjoy each other's company. So we tend to be together a lot.
So would you say Kendrick is your best friend?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He is definitely, I have to, so when we first got married, I had to remind myself sometimes, okay, this is your husband. This is not one of your besties, right? Because I literally say everything, anything, there's nothing off the table. I mean, we talk about everything. Yeah. He definitely is. Yeah.
Same here. You feel like you can share everything. Or if something happens, you're like, ooh, I can't wait till Terry.
Right.
So yeah, you do. That is a challenge for us. We talk a lot as women. Bless his heart, he's learned that I talk out loud.
You think out loud.
I think out loud.
Yes. Me too. So he'd be like, "What you said?" I'd be like, "It's okay. I was just really thinking outside, thinking to myself."
Terry doesn't even respond at this point. He processes and go, oh, I don't think she wants me to say anything. I think she just thinking out loud. So he knows. So now let's talk about some challenges. Because I know that you guys, Kayden was your little boy that passed away. So share with us some challenges that you've had and how you've had to kind of work through that.
Yeah. And so I think prior to 2005, we were like wondering, because we got married in 2001, and they say like the first 2 years or the first 5 years are the most challenging and whatnot. And so we were always wondering, like, when are the challenging parts going to come with this deal? Because, this has been pretty easy, right? And so in 2005, of course, Hurricane Katrina decides to visit New Orleans. And now we are, Shantania likes to say that, like somebody put us in a paper bag and just shook it up and just flipped it upside down, right? Wow. We went from being homeowners to being homeless, right, because of Hurricane Katrina. And so we thought that, okay, that's the challenge that we'll have to overcome, right? And so because we had a couple things in place, it wasn't as challenging for us as it was for a lot of people that we knew. And so even with Hurricane Katrina being what it was in our lives and the transition and whatnot, it was more of a learning process for us than it was a challenge, if you will. But then in 2011, we were blessed with a beautiful baby boy. He was born June 16th of 2011, Kayden Addison Leggins. And we like to say that he was the cutest of all the kids, right? Like, for the most part, all of our kids were born with no hair. Kayden had a head full of curly hair and just a beautiful boy. And to this day, we can't think of any challenges or whatever that we had with the pregnancy or anything like that. And so he was born June 16th of 2011, and he passed away June 18th of 2011. Wow. And so while that rocked our family, and in conversation with an older gentleman, he shared with me, say, Kendrick, this can make your marriage or it can break your marriage. And Shantania said so many times already, God's grace is sufficient. It even that challenging situation, it helped make us stronger together. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It really did. There was some challenge with it. We went through therapy and all of that kind of stuff, what I think it was helpful. But like for me, Kendrick was like my fix-it person. You know what I'm saying? Like if I had a challenge, if anything went wrong, like I could always count on him to fix it. And so for years, I had to get over that because, when we recognized our son wasn't breathing, he tried to do CPR, all of this stuff. And, I think I held on for a couple years that he didn't fix it. Like I felt like, and when I start thinking about it, it's like I was really putting not necessarily, it wasn't his fault, but I was putting it on him because I expected him to fix it. Like he was doing CPR on Kayden. And I remember I ran out the house to go knock on a neighbor's door because our neighbor at the time was like a pediatric nurse or something. And I tell y'all, no lie, when I was running down the street, I just knew in my heart that when I came back, that, he would have been coughing or he would have had fixed it. And that was not the case. And so for a long time, I dealt with that. I had to deal with that. And I didn't realize that's what was happening until years later and still talking and doing therapy and stuff, that I was putting that onus on him a little bit. So that's been our big ball that we've had to deal with, just the loss of a kid and what that brings to the family. But God's grace, you're going to hear us talk about that all the time because that is what has brought us through.
And I love the fact that you guys include Kayden in everything. Like you still, when you do family portraits, you've got a picture of him. You recognize his birthday, you recognize the date when he passed away. And it's just really on the outside looking in, it really is so beautiful to watch. And I think, and I'm going to ask you about this. It appears from the outside that it also helps the children with the healing process because you guys are so open about talking about it and you're so open about recognizing him, like not forgetting him and making sure he's a part of the family. When Shantania says how many kids she has, she always says, I've got 5 children, So how was that for the children dealing with that and dealing with the death of Kayden?
It's the thing about it is, the baby existed. We had a full-term pregnancy. We had all of these plans and hopes and dreams. I got a maternity shoot, all of that stuff. So we had created a place in our family for him. And so, when he passed away, that void existed. And so that's one of my prayers is always, God, allow his memory to stay alive in our hearts. I mean, it's been 11 years. And, we don't ever want to forget him. We don't ever want to forget that he existed. And so for the rest of our lives, he will be included in everything that we do. I think it's very helpful for the kids. I mean, obviously, all of them but one was born. And, they honor him in their own special way. We all wear bracelets that say, I would say we have a son in heaven there, say they have a brother in heaven. And we want him to be a part of it. Carson was not here. But you wouldn't even know because she knows of Kayden. She honors Kayden. And, we want that to be the case. It definitely is. It helps them. Kendrick mentioned when we had Kayden, remember we had 1 boy and 2 girls. So, we kind of had our fingers crossed that he would be a boy. And he was. So we felt like, oh, wow, it's perfect. And, to lose that, it was definitely... it was hard for the kids. KJ, was looking for that brother. But, they love celebrating him. They love seeing pictures of him. They love him being included in everything we do. I believe it definitely helped them with the healing process.
Yeah.
Well, I think everything. Go ahead, Kendrick. Go ahead.
Yeah, we organically include him into everything. One of the things that Shantania mentioned is very early on, we decided to do family counseling. We decided to do family therapy. And oftentimes people look at it as if you're doing counseling, something is wrong. Well, we think something is wrong, right? We lost a kid, and we look at that, and there are subject matter experts that know stuff that we don't know, right? And so they actually helped us with the healing process. They encouraged us to include our baby boy into different family events and family functions and whatnot. And so I think we were going to do that organically. But just to get that confirmation, if you will, that it's not weird, like we taking family pictures and we have a picture of Kayden in the family picture. So just getting that confirmation, from the counselors and whatnot, I think that did a great job of helping, with the healing process. And, we would encourage anybody that faces any type of challenge. That definitely doesn't have to be the loss of a child. But,
right.
If counseling is an area that can help enhance a certain situation, then by all means, do counseling.
Yeah. And I think after COVID, people are a lot more open to counseling because, in our community, it's like you just got to pray, Yeah. But a lot of times prayer definitely helps. But like you said, there are professionals out there that know things or have an understanding of things that we don't have an understanding for. So it's important that, we get to counseling. So is there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, but I'll just say this. I really admire you guys for having the strength and to acknowledge the fact that you need to go to counseling or you wanted to take the family to counseling, because that shows strength to me. It doesn't show any weakness at all. So I think you guys have a great family, and I think what you've got, all the things you guys have done has shown that you guys made a lot of great decisions on how you guys reacted to the death of a child.
Okay, so now let's talk about COVID, because COVID was kind of rough. Shantania, you had small children at home that were home learning. Oh God, help us all. I'm just saying, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that. But how, what I realize is that a lot of people are finding out a lot about their marriages because of COVID. So what would be some things you think you learned about your marriage as a result of COVID?
I think we have kind of like a different dynamic because we was working home together anyway. Now, the added piece was the kids wasn't here. So, having kids home, and everybody was home, from the college kid to the one that was in preschool. So that was like the added dynamic. But in all honesty, once we realized that, okay, this is going to be some long-term stuff, everybody going to be here for a while, we honestly made the most of it. We would enjoy everybody being home. Once we figured out everybody need to have their place, the little one wasn't in school yet. So she was just still kind of running around, and we made a decision that, okay, we need to find a school for her. And we found a virtual school for her. And so that created some peace because we could work, and everybody was kind of in their space doing their schooling. But we honestly use it as an opportunity to create more family time and memories because, y'all, we've been pretty busy over the last 15, 16 years that we've been here. And COVID allowed us to spend time at home and enjoy our house and our kids at home. We created a garden in the backyard. We did flower. I mean, we spent a lot of time in the backyard planting stuff, and we really had fun. And so we use it as an opportunity to just kind of bond more together. Once our college kid, once he got over the fact that he had to spend the next 2 semesters home, he played with us as well. But it was really, I believe it was a blessing. I mean, there were some horrible things that happened during COVID. My dad passed away during COVID. And so there was some, downsides to it. But in the big scheme of things, from our immediate family, it was really an opportunity for us to kind of connect even more. I mean, we was cooking at home. We would let the kids come up with, okay, what we cooking today? What we eating today? And we just made the best of it, honestly.
Yep, I would agree. It allowed for us to just slow down.
Yeah.
Because we were always just blowing and going, always on the move. And as a result of being quarantined and even after the quarantine, just COVID still being apparent, it forced us to just slow down. And in that slowdown, we were able to spend more time with each other. Shantania mentioned the vegetable garden in the yard. We've grown vegetables in our garden that we've included in our cooking and whatnot. And so, just the kids being able to see that process and whatnot of taking something from seed to plant to being able to bring it to the table, that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if we hadn't had the slowdown of COVID. So as Shantania mentioned, we did make the most of it.
Yeah.
So Terrence, did you, what would you say? I think for us, it was, I realized that not only did I love him, but I liked him. Right. Because some people, you love your spouse, but you don't necessarily like being around them. Right. Mm-hmm. I like being around him. He was funny. He, was interesting. We laughed together. So I think it really enhanced our relationship in terms of bringing us closer. We started working out together. Mm-hmm. We continued. It just really made us even closer as friends, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. And we're probably closer now than we ever been. Even before we even got married, we're probably the best our relationship ever been. And COVID sort of kicked it off a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, of course, we had the challenges because we had a college student that was here. That was self-learning. That everybody had to find their space, right? So, because we had one office in the house, so Terrence took the office. I had to take the dining room. We had to find learning spaces for everybody. But after we got through those initial things, it was really just kind of reconnecting.
Yeah.
So now, Kendrick, now you married to a strong boss lady. She a boss now. You know how the young people say, you're a boss. As a man, how is that in your relationship? How does that fit into your relationship, being married to a successful, beautiful boss lady?
I think, it challenges me to be a better version of myself. Like, I welcome the dynamics of having, somebody as Shantania that can, have the executive thought process, that could, be the boss per se, as it relates to the business world. And so that dynamic challenges me to be a better version of myself. I think that oftentimes the thing that intimidates weak men would be a strong woman. But, strong men welcome a strong woman, because it's been said that behind every strong man is a surprised mother-in-law. But beside every strong man is a strong woman, right? Yeah. And so I welcome the opportunity to have, a strong wife and a boss chick, if you will. Is that the terminology you use? Boss chick, right? And so I welcome that opportunity, but it does by no means it doesn't have me insecure or anything like that. I actually welcome it.
Okay, Terrence, what are your thoughts? You married to a boss lady?
No. I agree hardly. I want and I pray for Nanette to be her best self. And I'm saying I go for her to be I told her that when we got married, I wanted her to have the life she always wanted and be her best self. And so we're a team. And so and I wanted, and so we're constantly working for her, for both of us to be our best self. So so when great things happen to her, I look at it as it's happening to the team. It's happening for the team.
Absolutely.
And he's my biggest cheerleader. So the confidence, what people don't understand, and I'm sure this is like for you, Shantania. Yeah, you're out there being a boss lady, but you feel confident in being that role because you've got a cheerleader right behind you saying, "You a bad girl, go do it." You know what I'm saying? And Kendra had mentioned before, it doesn't take anything away from you being a man because she's a strong woman. It actually, to me, says a lot about the man. And that he has to be strong. He has to be self-confident to be able to, put up with us, because we can be quite a bit sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. Like, I understand that. I appreciate him because I really could not operate the way I can without having his support, without, knowing that he's going to do whatever needs to be done. And I so appreciate that. It doesn't matter how big, how small, how off the cuff. It could be something I didn't planned out and he know way in advance, or it could be like a last minute SOS. I know that I can count on him to do it, right? He's not going to tell me no. He's going to get the job done. And so I absolutely appreciate that, because if I had to be worried about, okay, what is he thinking? Does he, is he okay with this? You can't operate in your best self, thinking like that. If I had to think about, okay, what's going on with the kids, this, that, and the other, I can't operate in my best self. So I know that, behind the scenes, he's making sure kids get dropped off, they got lunch, they getting stuff done in those times where I can't, because maybe there's some other competing obligations. So I absolutely appreciate that. And it goes back to, that team. Man, look, you don't see, it takes a team to get this stuff done. When you look at successful families, successful couples, you best believe they are working together. That does not mean that they don't have challenges, that they don't have issues, that they don't have, obstacles that come their way. It's just they've made a decision that, we still gonna get the job done regardless. So
yeah. And now our last part, and then we'll be able to wrap it up. But what would be, for any of the viewers that might be single, or maybe they're in a seasoned marriage and they've got some struggles, or maybe they're happily married, just what advice would you have for making it work and continue to make it work?
One of the things that we've made sure that we do is there are always three groups of people that we surround ourselves with. People that we look up to, right? There are people that have been married longer than we have, that have had, different trials that they've overcome that we have yet to overcome. And so there are people that we look up to. There are also people that are sidelined to us. Maybe some people are in the same length of marriage, or, in the same dynamics facing in their relationship. And so we're able to bounce things off of them because they're sidelined. They're going through some of the same things that we're going through. And then there are people that have been married less time than we've been married, right? And so we're able to provide tutelage to those individuals. So we always have ourselves in a position where we are learning, sharing, and teaching. And so I would encourage anybody that's, looking to get married, or people that are married, maybe facing challenges, make sure that you surround yourself with some other married couples, right? A couple things you'll find out is, one of the things I think you'll find out is maybe you don't have it as bad as you thought you have it, right? Because you're gonna see how she talks to him and he talks to her. And you're like, man, did you see how you can't wait to get back to the car? You're like, you see how they were talking to each other? I was thinking the fight was gonna break out or something like that. And then also you're gonna recognize some areas in which you can still enhance, some areas in which you can still grow in your relationship. I tell Shantania all the time, chivalry is not dead. Chivalry is not dead. If we're walking somewhere and Shantania is attempting to open the door or something like that, I'll say, let me get that door for you, little lady, or something like that, right? Because I want her to know that, hey, look, you have a gentleman as a husband, and I'm still opening doors for you and stuff like that. And so when other people see that, maybe they like, you know what? I wish you would open the doors for me. Right, so I want to be in a position not where people think that I'm better than them or anything like that, or our marriage is better than their marriage. But I do want for us to inspire other couples, inspire other marriages, and I think Shantania has a similar thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. That whole mentorship piece. We seek mentorship in our careers and professions and stuff. But man, even in marriage, you have to have that mentorship component, and that's kind of what that is. And I would also share with them, y'all, look, understand that God created marriage. So anything that he created, which he's created everything, is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the union of marriage. It's us imperfect people that mess it up. And so, when people are questioning the fact, does marriage work? Should I get married? This and that, marriage that's old school. Listen, marriage is perfect. It works, but you have to be willing to do the work. And, most people not willing to get uncomfortable, to become selfless versus selfish. So if you carry that mindset into marriage, then you're going to have some challenges. You're going to have some challenges anyway. But if you have the right mindset, you can get through those challenges.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said surround yourself with other couples, because I told my single girlfriend a few years ago, she got upset with me. I said, why would you go talk to relationships with somebody else that's single? Find somebody that's in a successful marriage, if that's where you're trying to get to, and talk to them about your relationships. Because if the single person had it all together, not saying you shouldn't ask your single friends anything, but if they're not married and you're trying to get married, you probably shouldn't ask them questions about what that looks like, right? Surround yourself with people that are where you're trying to get to. So, well, thank you guys for your time. Mr. Ray, I know I do all of the talking. So just make sure that you married a talker. So was there anything you wanted to say?
No comments.
Okay.
No comments.
So thank you, Kendrick and Shantania. It's been truly a joy. Thank you for sharing with our audience. And I know that your testimony is going to be a blessing to others.
The feeling is absolutely mutual. We thank you all for the invite, and we pray that it has been an inspiration to other people that are listening.
Absolutely. We thank y'all so much. And you know what? Y'all one of the couples that we look up to. Y'all one of the couples, we know y'all a little further along in the game. Y'all are absolutely one of the couples that we look up to. So it's an honor for us to be able to have this conversation with y'all.
Well, thank you. We definitely do appreciate that. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.